Hello and welcome to an emergency episode of the Cougar Prowl Podcast. This is Greg Woods, WSU beat writer for the Spokesman Review, joined on this rare, what is today, Thursday, by Jamey of CougarFan.com. And folks, we won't waste your time. We are here on an impromptu note because we are less than 24 hours removed from WSU parting ways with Anne McCoy, athletic director. Kind of a shocking move. At least that's the way we interpreted it at first. But she is on her way out. It was confirmed by WSU in an official capacity yesterday. And now they're looking for a new AD for the second time in about a year and a half. So kind of a crazy time for this to happen. Jamey, give me your first reaction to just like how you first found out about it and like what you thought at first.
Yeah, I mean, this was one of those, things happen in this business, in this profession where you get an inkling, you have an idea, you think something's coming, and this was not that. I mean, I was sitting in my apartment just working on some completely separate things and got a phone call from Ian Furness, who longtime Seattle radio host and dedicated Coug, asking if I'd heard news about Anne McCoy being out as AD, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And
Yeah.
Percy Allen of the Seattle Times had sent out a tweet, and from there, everything kind of came to light. But I think, I mean, I was surprised.
I was shocked.
Yeah, but I think as you start to kind of unpack it and peel back layers, you look at the fact that you have, this is not the president who hired her. That was obviously Kurt Schultz. And I think that there was obvious concerns on the front of NIL and fundraising and revenue sharing and all of these things. And the fact of the matter is, in today's college athletics, that is the most important thing.
Yep.
It's no longer, I mean, obviously on-field performance matters, and all the other things still matter. But if you want to compete and you want to swim in today's college athletics, you have to be, kind of stone cold on the financial trail and raising money and doing all these things. And I think you kind of put two and two together, and maybe just she wasn't doing that to the standard that Elizabeth Cantwell wants. And I think from her comments and her kind of position and demeanor, it's obvious that she understands what it is going to take to get to a point and get to a level of consistent competition and consistent financial growth, and obviously did not feel that Anne was going to be able to do that or get to that point for Washington State. And I think when you look at, you got the transfer portal opening in a little under 2 months for football, you're hoping by then maybe you would have an AD in place that is going to be really aggressive on the financial side of things and helping the football team get the money to retain players and also acquire new players.
I think there's a sense among WSU, just the orbit in general, that like, hey, we are a former, traditional Pac-12 Power 5 member. So by virtue of that, we will just be the big fish in this new Pac-12. Not the case. It does not happen like that. It does not happen automatically. In fact, I would argue, at least like on the NIL front, which again is not everything, but it is pretty important when it comes to the criteria that Cantwell has. And that way, they're near the bottom of this new conference. I would have to think about like what kinds of schools would be on a higher level than Washington State, but I would think it's most of them. I mean, Boise State is in a great shape. Colorado State, San Diego State. I mean, like, I don't know, man. I just feel like you start to think about like where they are in this new conference, and then you think about. I mean, I think you guys had the interview with Cantwell the other day where she was like, yeah, we need, what is it, like $20 million in new money to be able to compete in the new Pac-12. And I mean, like, for all the good things Anne McCoy did, like, I don't think that was her best skill set.
No, I mean, you have to be, it wasn't. No, I mean,
Yeah.
Anne was very personal, very warm.
She was awesome, yeah.
Obviously, very dedicated to the school. But you have to be, for lack of a better term, a quote unquote killer in terms of what you're going to do on the fundraising stage and what you're going to do in that arena, and that just didn't necessarily apply to her her style, her personality necessarily. And
Mm-hmm.
again, I think, I think for the timing of when they needed to hire her, she was great. Great face for the university, great ambassador. But
Yeah.
as you're kind of getting into the new Pac-12, and as what Cantwell said, and the tricky thing is too is a lot of the schools they're joining. When you look at like Colorado State and San Diego State, for example, so much of everything they do goes into basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, every last dime Gonzaga has goes into basketball. So it's kind of that interesting position, where Washington State, they're obviously prioritizing football. I mean, that's the moneymaker for the university. But um, I think she looked at the whole situation, kind of looked at it at face value. You go back to the summer with everything that happened with the track program, and part of the program getting cut, and maybe I think what a lot of people felt was not managed or addressed in the best way, and kind of the
Yeah.
the entire announcement was, dare I say, a little bit kind of fumbled and so on.
Botched.
It
Yeah.
was, yeah. So I'm sure that didn't help. I saw people wondering, is this on field or on court related? I don't think it has anything to do with the performances of the teams. I mean, first off, the only only coaches, excuse me, she's hired are Jimmy Rogers and David Riley, and um, I mean, you wouldn't be firing her over their performances, because
So
their
early.
performances, yeah, well, that, and it's not like Wazoo's 0-9 in football and went 3-25 in basketball last year or anything like that.
Right.
There's obvious. I mean, within if you go deep, there's the frustration over this or that, but certainly not to a stage where you'd fire an AD over it. So
Yeah.
I think it's a matter of a president who wants kind of her own AD, the same way a coach wants his own players, or a general manager in professional sports wants his own head coach or manager.
Yeah.
Cantwell probably wants an AD that she picked, and I think it's very clear based on the decision that was made and just some of her other comments that fundraising is going to be at the heart of all of it, and whoever it is that gets this job is going to have to be an ace fundraiser and someone who is going to attack this new era of NIL and revenue sharing, and not just be, this is like, be proactive and be aggressive, to help raise the money, to help get donations, and help supply the team so that they can keep their own players and can get new players.
Well, and this is kind of water under the bridge, but for all the faults of Pat Chun, and I don't fault any of the Coug fans for not liking him. What you can't say about him is he was not a he, that he. You can't say he was not a good fundraiser.
He was a great fundraiser. I
Great
mean, that was
fundraiser.
kind of
Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I was that was kind of I think what was his redeeming quality a lot of kind of down the line, especially as started to come out more and more some of his tenuous relationships with coaches. Obviously,
Yeah.
the everything that went on with the Greenies was well documented, and the fact that they weren't exactly on the top of each other's Christmas card list. It kind of started to become apparent. He maybe wasn't the easiest person to work for or work with, but he fundraised. I mean,
Yeah.
and now in fairness, he was fundraising to a Pac-12 program for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, Chun was only the AD at Wazoo for 6 months after the Pac-12 news. And when he left, Washington State was still finishing their Pac-12 season. So there is that to consider, of the fact that, he got to fundraise to a Pac-12 program, a Power 5 program, all these things. But no, there is no doubting that he was very involved and very big in terms of getting fundraising. And I think it also is fair to note that a lot of the people who worked under him and were very good in that area as well have moved on. When you talk about Brian Blair, who's the AD at Toledo, you talk about Chris Park, who's now at Baylor. They were really, really good at that area of things, and Blair left, I think, in 2022. Park in 2022 as well. So that didn't help things when you lost them, because that was so much of their area of expertise and so much of things that they were really, really good at.
I really do get the sense that they just want a fresh start with this.
It could be too.
I think I mean, again, this is all kind of just an educated guess more than hard reporting, but the sense I get is that like Cantwell just wants to start anew at the top of this new or at the athletic department at the start of this new era. Like, I think what's the thing is that like I think she has the right mindset where it's like, hey, like we're not a part of the conference that we used to be. We're not, like, our world has changed maybe forever. Like it's not going to be the same, at least not in the immediate future. So I think what is going to be important with this hire is that, like, or kind of what she may be thinking is that we have to have someone who has like a new vision for WSU, a new vision, because what I think there is a temptation, just like as maybe subconsciously within some of the brass of the school, is that you're still trying to hang on to what was. Like, hey, we were part of the traditional Pac-12. We were a Power 5 school. It sucks, what was us, da-da-da. Like, I think, like, the more you hang on to that, the farther away you are from where you need your vision to be. Because it's over. Like, it's over. I don't mean to be all doom and gloom. Greg hates the Cougs, whatever. But it's just like, it's not gonna be the same. And I think when you see new vision. Like you need someone new who is aggressive with fundraising. Because I cannot think of like three more important things right now within the athletic department that are more important than fundraising. Whether it's for NIL or the game day experience, which is improving, or facility upgrade.
Just like, money as a whole.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, money's always important, but no. And to your point, you start to wonder of, like, is the ideal candidate someone on the younger side, someone who is, and I'm not calling Anne McCoy old by any means. That's not what I mean by this statement. But, like, someone who is kind of has that very, because the problem is the people who have been around this game for a long time, everyone, it kind of had their ways of doing things, and it's tough. I mean, someone like Anne McCoy who's been at Wazoo for 20 plus years, and there's this mindset and this way of doing things that doesn't apply to current college athletics. It's not 2013 anymore. It's not even 2019 anymore. And I do wonder, is there maybe within Cantwell's idea getting someone in on the younger side who really does understand and embrace this of what NIL is and what this, and it's the same reason why you see a lot of these veteran coaches starting to retire, where you see guys like Nick Saban be done as a head coach, where you see guys like Chip Kelly get out of college coaching. Tony Bennett, exactly. Coach K and Roy Williams, I think, were probably more for the fact that they were just, had been coaching for 90 years, it seems like. But you start to see that a lot of kind of that old guard, per se, and that the old way of thinking and the old way of doing college athletics is kind of a thing of the past. And the modern day is, again, we've talked about NIL ad nauseum on the podcast, but whether you like it or not, NIL is here. Transfer portal is here. This is what college athletics is. And we can talk about, it should be this. I went on a whole thing the other day about, I appreciate when teams are built on, their own recruiting and development. The fact of the matter is that's the exception, not the rule anymore. And if you want to swim and you want to survive in this era of college athletics, you have to be willing to be aggressive, and you have to understand the absolute importance of every last dollar, that every $18.90, that every last cent that goes into the Washington State program is a step towards keeping this player or keeping that player, or, hey, you need a wide receiver out of the portal. That's where that money comes from. And the fact of the matter is, we don't know we don't know what it was going to look like in January. We don't know that yet when the portal does open. But based on this, I would say that there was probably concern from Cantwell that there was not going to be the money that they wanted. And the hope is that now, if you can get a new AD, because timing was a big question with this, but if you can get a new AD in fairly quickly, and you really can start to get things rolling in November, December, you get to that money, because that's the fact of the matter. I know the fans get sick of everybody saying donate, but like that is the reality of college athletics now.
That's what it is, and I know I'm preaching to the choir with this. I'm not the first person to mention this, but just like as a relative outsider who's like relatively new to the whole Wazoo sports scene, there's just like this weird dichotomy between like, hey, we all really care about our university and our sports programs versus we aren't getting the donations and money we need.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, how does that
no 100%?
Coexist?
It's 100%. It's there's because a lot of the fan base is we're big fans. We want the teams to succeed, but then all of a sudden again it's time to open the checkbook and it's like
yeah, exactly.
And some of it is like, again, I know for the older fan they don't want this to be the reality. They don't feel like they should be donating to help keep players and so on. This era of college football, or college athletics, this is wrong. We lose guys because of this, that, and the other.
Well,
this is what it is.
Yeah.
And for all the for the people who go and complain about, the offense isn't good enough or this and that, there is a way to help that.
It's never been more in your hands than it is right now.
Right.
Like, you have control.
Obviously, the coaching staffs of all the teams and so on, they have to identify the players. They have to develop the players. They have to recruit the players. All those things still apply. But the retention side of things, I mean, it used to be, as we know, you recruit a kid, they're in an alternate universe. John Mateer is the quarterback at Washington State right now. He's handing it off to Wayshawn Parker. You've got Buda Alukta and Ethan O'Connor and David Goost on your defense. But that's not the reality. That's not the reality anymore.
Yeah.
And obviously, when you get to like the Mateer number and so on, that starts to become okay, what are you going to do? But some of these other guys, if there's more money, they're probably still here. And you want to stop this from continuing to happen to where Washington State fans had to watch a former quarterback go win the Heisman. And before his injury, Mateer was in the conversation of that. It comes down to the money. And that's where I think, and the way I'm circling this all back to, that's what Cantwell, I think, wants out of her AD, is someone who is aggressive on that front and is like, that is like their focus is how do we get more money?
Yeah.
How can we get enough money to keep player X, Y, and Z?
Again, I think like the further apart you could separate yourself with this new AD from the way things used to be is better, because I also think this also kind of goes back to what you were just talking about with the lack of the proper donations. Is that like, I think for a lot of fans it's like, I think maybe they would be more fired up to donate if the likes of like USC and Cal were still coming to Giesa Field, not Martin State. But and I all of this I understand. Like, even like to give like a personal anecdote, like, it's like, okay, like my first year on the beat was the last year in the Pac-12 in 2020, the traditional Pac-12 in 23, and I get it, because like that was my first year, and it's like, hey, I get a job covering a Power 5 team, and then within like a year, it's like, oh, now for Wyoming is coming to town. Like, okay,
so this is actually, all of this is your fault. Wazoo was let it be written, Wazoo is a Power 5 team until Greg Woods got the spokesman review job, and right when how have I not put that together before?
It is crazy. It literally happened within like 2 or 3 weeks of my first day.
Yeah.
Like my first day was like late July of 23, and then
right. But yeah, no, but to your point, yeah, exactly. I understand that side of things for sure, of like, you're watching the USCs of the world, the Washingtons of the world, the Oregons of the world. You're still obviously playing Washington, but the flip side of that, I would say, is it was going to be hard to ever compete with those programs financially. The fact of the matter is, Oregon and USC have an endless supply of money. Oregon has the Nike factory. USC has, USC. Like, there was never going to be a stage where Washington State could reach that level consistently. It just, Oregon, every year as you go into the portal, Oregon picks what they want. That's just what it is. You are now in a situation where you can compete financially, or should be able to, with the teams you're going to be competing with year in and year out. And Gonzaga is kind of maybe the one outlier there, just because, again, every dollar they have is funneled right to basketball because they don't have a football team, and it's, Gonzaga basketball is a pretty major brand, but it should not be untenable or unobtainable to have the money that Boise State and Colorado State and Oregon State and San Diego State and all these schools have. And I think that's where it's, you know, it almost would feel like at times in the past where you could donate all the money in the world, you were still going to be so many steps behind the big boys of the old Pac-12. You fundraise and you push the NIL side of things and the revenue sharing. There is no reason that they cannot be right where the rest of these programs are, and that should be a huge selling point. And I think within that, that's where Cantwell said, all right, we need someone who can get us there, and obviously did not feel that from the financial standpoint, Anne McCoy was going to be able to do that.
Well, they also got to get, again, it's, I'm preaching to the choir with this point too, but they have to get some, I don't know if like, what's the term, like whale or whatever, like there's so many people out there. Yeah. Like there's so many, I mean, people have brought up the CEO of Taco Bell graduated from WSU here. Obviously Clay Thompson, there's a little bit of like a damaged relationship there with him and the university. So I don't know. It's crazy because like my last job before this was covering Idaho State stuff over in the middle of nowhere, Idaho, and my buddy at the time was covering Boise State stuff. And it felt like at that time, I would just wake up like once every 2 weeks, and he's writing a story about Boise State got like a $2.5 million gift from some big time alumni. And it's like that's still happening with like somewhat regular frequency at Boise State at least. Even I believe like maybe a few months ago, maybe it was the summer or the spring, San Diego State got like a $5 million gift from some really wealthy alumni, something like that. And that's just pretty unheard of here. I don't know the last time I saw something like that happen here at WSU. So I think that's important. What is also important, and we'll get out of here in a minute, I think they have to improve the game day experience too. I think that has to be a priority for this new AD, because what you learn, and you've been to some of these games at the future Pac-12 stadiums, they have Martin Stadium, Giesa Field lapped. Like Boise State, do you remember that game last year where they have the LED lights and there's people holding their phones and the sound system and the video board? Even like Oregon State, like it's a little bit of a smaller stadium, like capacity wise, but they have the LED light. They have this awesome video board. I'm even like San Diego State at their, I know their stadium is a lot newer, but I just like there's like you go to some of these game day experiences at the other schools, whether they're in the new Pac-12 or not, and you're like, damn man, like this is awesome. Like they have some work to do,
It's I'll put it this way, and we can probably wrap it after this. I started school here in 2015. The game day experience isn't all that different than what it was then in terms of what it looks like. I mean, in terms of the operations and what you see in terms of the little games they play and so on. And obviously, like the alcohol sales was a big one. That was a huge step forward. But even that wasn't all that smooth. But they're trying to raise money for a new video board. They've got to do that, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. They've got to, the LED lights. But I think I wrote about this when the story came out about the video board. Oregon State, on their player, like right now with the player intros, it's the names come up and Glenn Johnson announces the starters. Oregon State had like literally, they had the guys name, position, hometown. Like that sounds simple, but it's just a little bit more than the still images.
It gives them like a personal touch too. Like you feel like you're getting to know your guys, which is important when you're turning over rosters every year.
Exactly.
Okay, last thing. Let's. I know we're gonna get out of here in a minute. Let's both each give like one, because you have a story about this. I'm gonna have one about this today about potential new candidates. Give me one, and I'll give you one, and then we'll get out of here after that.
With the asterisk of it's maybe unlikely because, and I'll get into that. But I think one of the first names that pops up is, I mentioned him earlier, is Brian Blair, who was at Wazoo for a few years, did really good things. He's the AD at Toledo. I think he's the type of guy. I mean, you have to call. I mean, he's almost. I don't want to call it the obvious choice because I think there's a lot of potential candidates, but you would just think like, look, you see, he's been able to do really good things at Toledo. He obviously has ties here. The problem is, and we wrote about this last year. I think he's got two young children. A lot of his family is in the Toledo area, and he said last year when they were going through this hiring process that he would still be a few years away from being considering a move out of Toledo. It's only been a year and a half, Is that enough time? Is there enough of a offer that could be made? It's hard to say, but I think if you can get him to listen, I think he's got to be one of the top candidates.
The thing you have to keep in mind with this, and I'll give you my candidate in a second. What people have to keep in mind with this is that the salary, I mean, obviously anybody's salary is important to them when they consider a new job. But according to the state financial records in the state of Washington, Anne McCoy was making $233,000 last year as the full-time AD. You compare that to... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I would just say to that... First off, I do wonder, we talked about this a little bit before, how much of that is mixed in with what she was making as the associate AD before she got hired. I don't know exactly when the numbers were pulled. I'm not saying, oh, you're making that up, but I do wonder when exactly it's documented from.
Well, it says 2024 on there. So, and she was, I guess she was only the AD for half of that year. It was like 3/4. Yeah, I mean,
you got to think she didn't get hired till July.
Yeah, that's true. But anyway, like that, it's like more or less what she was making is the point.
Right. But the other point is, how much of that was Kirk Schultz just wanted to go as cheap as he possibly could.
Yeah.
Because like Blair, for example, I think is making about $300,000, and you have to think Washington State can pay more for an athletic director than Toledo.
I think they can too. Like that was going to be my next thing too. Is that just like I think they will pony up a little more just because like Kirk Schultz was a few months away from retiring. And I think like you put two and two together, and you're like, okay, I think he just wanted to have an AD to hire someone quickly and then get out of here. So yeah, I think we both agree about that. My candidate, and I've seen a few of these other names floating around. The one that I have not seen is one kind of off the wall, Tyler Mariucci at Fresno State. He is currently, I have his title right here, Senior Associate Athletic Director for Development. Again, he's at Fresno State. And the main reason why I think he could succeed here is a lot of his success at Fresno State has come from the revenue generating department. And I'm gonna read off this. I copied and pasted this here because it would be a lot to remember. I'm gonna read off from his bio at the Fresno State website. It says, has driven back-to-back record-breaking fundraising years, generating over $21 million in support. This includes an all-time high in seven-figure gifts directed towards strategic initiatives and capital projects. Overall fundraising has decreased nearly 40%, reflecting a growing fiscal years 23-24, 24-25 represent the second and third largest fundraising totals in the school's history across all units. And what does Washington State need the most right now? Money. Yes. So I think based off of his experience and the experience he has in that department specifically, I think would make him a pretty good candidate here. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, no, for sure.
All right, well, I think that'll do it. This is our first kind of emergency podcast, and I cannot think of a better reason to do it than this. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you Tuesday of next week.